And do you find a big difference in attitude between employers and employees, simply because, as you were saying, and we were talking before, it's a very litigious society we live in now, and if something goes wrong, the employers could be hauled over the coals. The employees might be thinking, oh Lord, yet another regulation we have to do, which, it's just going to put another sort of obstacle in my day-to-day work.
Yeah, I think so, Howard. I think people get set in their ways when they're doing a job, and if there hasn't been an incident, if there hasn't been an accident, or a negative event anyway, why change anything? That's the perception. But, in the laws of averages, in the laws of risk, one of these days something is actually probably going to have a negative event. And in that particular case, it would be the families of people who are affected by this who are going to say, well, how did that happen? Why was my husband allowed to be exposed to that? And the employer could turn around in a defensive way and say, well, this person was well trained, we gave him the equipment, but he decided to do it a different way than the prescriptive way. Obviously, it has to be a degree of pragmatism in everything, but, at the end of the day, Health and Safety at Work Act is an act, and it's there that, like any criminal law act, is there to either, have a happy or a sad outcome.
And speaking of, you are actually here to talk to us about an event that's happening that could get us all much better informed about health and safety. Just let us know what it actually is.
Yeah, it's the we're very fortunate to have a branch of the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health on the island. It was originally the brainchild of Stan Yellop, who runs Safety Management Services. He was very, very active in getting this going on the island, and a lot of health and safety professionals at the time could see his vision. We were fortunate, I think it was about 2006, 2007, we got our own status as an international branch. And from then and then, we've gone on to put some really valuable events, probably between 50 to 60 branch events. And every year we've tried to put on this conference where we try and attract 5 to 6 keynote speakers of varying industries and varying interest to everybody. Try and also have an impact speaker where there's been a negative event on a person's life, and they like to be able to talk about it and just see that it's not just about the negative effect on them, but the wider effect on their family, their dependents, their children.
And a very interesting speaker you brought this year, Lisa Ramos, is it?
Yeah, Lisa is she's the ambassador now for the Forklift Truck Association. Unfortunately, she had a very, very nasty accident in the warehousing industry probably about 10 years ago, and now she goes around the country and possibly further afield, talks about her experiences, but not just that, about how it's affected her and her relationship with her partner, but also how it's affected her and her wider circle of friends, and the ability that the limited ability she now has as opposed to what she used to be able to do. So we're looking forward to hearing from Lisa, definitely.
And this sort of the health and safety issues, obviously this affects all sectors, doesn't it? So, I mean, you mentioned obviously warehousing, forklifts, but it touches pretty much all our areas of life, doesn't it? So who would you say this conference is actually for?
I think there's something in this year's conference for everything. Stress awareness is another thing. Stress in workplaces, people are having to work longer hours, they're having to be asked to do more. That's fine. Good positive stress is a good thing. A lot of people thrive on it. It's when the stressors become unmanageable, and unfortunately that then becomes negative. So you're losing good people from the workplace, and they're getting ill. So they need support in that. They need people to be able to identify when those levels have been breached. So we've got Jennifer Webster coming from the Health and Safety Laboratory. Again, Jennifer is a very welcome return to this year to the island. She's spoken to us 3 or 4 times before. We've got a gentleman coming to talk on ISO 45001, which is the International Standards Organisation. That's taking over from 18001. I won't go into the details.
Who's that one for then? Because I have no idea what that is.
That is for any industry that wants to aspire to fit their companies out to that sort of level. So if the benefits to them would be if they were tendering for work with other international organisations, one of the prerequisites might have to be that they were ISO 45001 registered. And then we've got Asbestos Through the Ages, Dr. Peter Slinger. He's a local company, Safety Net. We've got Bruce Kirkham, ex-assistant fire chief, who's going to talk to us about safety fire safety in homes of multiple occupancy.
And that's something that obviously has been in the news a lot, especially in
Yes.
the wake of Grenfell and other
Yes,
sort of
indeed.
disasters. So that's something that I'm sure a lot of people will want to attend.
Yeah, and proactively sort of trying to help landlords and social housing providers about what to look for in the latest standards of fire safety.
And it's the asbestos which also caught my eye, because I think that's one it's still, if you think about health and safety, the attitudes to asbestos over the years has changed so much. I remember as a kid the side panel of our bath was made out of asbestos.
Yes,
and
indeed.
you think really now with children and all the rest of it, and now because of its long-term effect, I think as well, though, we still have people having knock-on effects who might have worked years ago.
We do, yeah. That is true, and probably up until the early 70s, homes were still quite innocently being built with asbestos in the houses. And I must stress to anybody who is concerned that generally asbestos in full sheets, which is undisturbed, is generally going to be fine. It's just when edges get chipped off. Perhaps if boilers have been replaced in areas where central heating boilers, where there's been having to make extra cuts, that type of thing, to fit a new boiler in, that's when there could be a time to get it checked out, just to make sure it is safe. But generally asbestos, if left alone, will be fine.
Which is good to know. And you can find out all about this at this conference. So just let us know when and where it's happening and how people can take part.
Yeah, it's at the Mount Murray Golf and Country Club on the 7th of February, between 9 and 4. It's a free event. We are getting close to maximum numbers, but there are still spaces available.